Next news item. Next news item. Let's go to Lost in the Sauce. Let's go to Lost in the Sauce. What's this all about? Well, let's see. We got a quote from Michael Nania. They're actual idiots working in NFL front offices, Michael says. Well, why does he say that? Why does he say that? Well, they put together some rankings. One of these places put together some rankings, and somebody ranked Sauce Gardner number 3. Number 3. We got a number 3 here for Sauce. A lot of people would say, well, wait a minute. He's got to be top 2. I don't mind that he's 3, but apparently he's a polarizing figure. So one veteran AFC scout said, who else with his length and size can cover like him? He's the best. That's probably general consensus. But another guy says, this is one of the most overrated players in the league. High-ranking NFL personnel evaluator said, you could call holding on him every play. And to that, Nania says there are actual idiots working in NFL front offices. Now, the reason I think that Nania is saying that is, well, number one, you could call holding on any cornerback on every play. You could. They put their hands on you. Just because they put your hands on you doesn't mean it's holding. Number one. But the other thing is, if you're going to do this, you should really put your name on it. Like, why are you anonymous here? If you're gonna slam a guy, put your name on it, right? I'm gonna stay anonymous. I'm gonna slam, because this guy probably works for the Patriots or the Dolphins or the Bills, right? Let's go slam Sauce Gardner. But if I were Robert Saleh, what I would do, I would print out all this stuff anybody ever says about Sauce Gardner, stuff like this. And if you remember back in the day when the first Hard Knocks the Jets were under the Rex Ryan, if you remember the scene with Rex Ryan and LaDainian Tomlinson, remember they were in training camp and Rex Ryan comes in. He goes, hey, LT, got some reading material for you. And he had printed out all of the articles saying LaDainian Tomlinson was done, cooked, career over for LT. He said, hey, LT, I printed these out for you, some bedtime reading for you, and put it on his desk. All these, as a motivational tool. And if I was Robert Saleh, I'd be doing the same thing with Sauce Gardner. I would be printing all of this out. I'd be keeping the receipts, and I'd be showing them to Sauce to push him even harder, to be even better. Kind of hard for him to be even better, but he could be. And I'll show you why in a second. But if I were Robert Saleh, I'd be printing all of these out and then having a meeting with Sauce and say, Sauce, we've collected all of these all of these articles from the off season. We thought you might like to read them. Here's some reading material, Mr. Sauce. And see how that does. Not that he needs motivating. I mean, the guy's he's hella motivated already, but hey, push him a little bit. But let's see, is there any validity to what they're saying? And is there any way for Mr. Sauce to improve, perhaps? Well, let's take a look. So one of the things that like to look at is the HAVOC score for people. This is a creation of, wish this thing would go there. Okay. This is a creation of Match Quarters and Field Vision, The Art of X. This is Coach Cody Alexander. If you've seen him on X, I would highly recommend checking him out. They have good data. They created this score called the HAVOC score. What it tries to do is put a player's performance into context. And so I like the fact that it has context. And you can see here, it has Sauce at number 10. So that's even worse. So wait a minute, what's going on here? We thought Sauce was the best. So what's really happening? Well, don't forget this. So this score now also takes into account run defense down here. Now, as we all know, Sauce is not great against the run. That's not what he does. He's a little bit slight. Now there's an area of legitimate part of his game that he could improve upon for sure. He could get better against the run. And I think in year 1 to year 2, he did get better. And this year, I'm sure he's probably working on it, and he could get even better. So that is something that gets taken into account in the composite rank. Now, normally when you're talking about cornerbacks, you're talking about their coverage ability. That's the main thing that they do. But it's nice if they can also tackle, and help out in that regard. So he can improve there for sure. And I think he knows that. The other thing that he can improve upon, is his interceptions. And we all, I think, know that he needs to take the ball away. We've been talking about that for 2 years. Why doesn't he have more interceptions? Well, number one, people don't throw it his way. So it's hard to intercept it if they don't throw it your way. But he's had opportunities. He dropped a few. But he needs to do that more. And this rating takes into account heavily turnovers. So when you intercept it or you force a fumble, that your HAVOC score will go up significantly, because that's the best thing you can do. You can turn over the other team, right? So it tries to quantify that. And in Sauce's case, he hasn't, produced a lot of turnovers the first 2 years. That's one thing he has not done. The other thing this tries to do, and if you look at this, it's kind of instructive about how we play defense. So I really like this right here. In cover 1 and quarters, he's ranked 2nd and 3rd, and he's number 1 in man and number 21 in zone. So cover 1 and quarters are zone, but they turn into man eventually. But nonetheless, cover 1 and quarters is what we play. For the most part, the Jets are playing cover 1 and quarters. We play a little bit of cover 2. We play a little bit of cover 3 and very little cover 2. But it's mostly quarters or man, or just straight up man. And these days, there's combinations of man and zone where sometimes the cornerbacks are in man and then the safeties will be in zone, or, So there's combos and match, and there's man match and all this stuff going on. But this could be something that, again, Saleh should print this out and say, Sauce, look, they got you 10th on this one. And we need you to improve upon your cover 2 and cover 3, even though we don't call those much. Because here he's ranked 2nd overall in cover 1 and 3rd overall in quarters. And those are what we play. But he's ranked 111th in cover 2, which we hardly ever play, and 35th in cover 3. So you could say, hey man, you got to get better. Now the best stat on this whole thing, though, is right here. And you could argue with the weighting. So they weight certain things, just like any model. They have to have certain weights to give you the result of the model. But there's one stat on here that tells you just how good, other than being number 1. So number 1 in the whole league in man is Sauce. But this stat here means first downs or touchdowns, 10%. A good number that you want to shoot for is 20% for this stat. So 10% is amazing. It's otherworldly. This guy doesn't give up any touchdowns or first downs, basically. And 10% is unheard of. So it's all in how you measure it. But certainly you can see right on here, you can see where he can improve. So I think this is a pretty decent data set to look at. You can obviously see where Sauce is strong and where he needs to improve. He needs to improve basically 3 things. He needs to improve his run defense, which is his tackling. And I think he knows that. He needs to improve in his zone coverage, which probably is less important. But then the most important thing, he needs to take the ball away. He needs to intercept the ball. And I think we all know that. He knows that. He's been hearing that for 2.5, 3 years already. And if he does those things, well, then you're going to have basically the number 1. I mean, you're going to have the number 1 undisputed number 1 cornerback in all of football if he's able to do those things. All right, next news item.